So yesterday we left off, I showed you how to do that paste special thing where you select an image and then put it on the inside and kind of create a mask, and it's, goes inside the image there. So if you need to know how to do that, go back and watch yesterday's video, which is up on the bulletins on the website. Okay, so we're going to finish up. I'm going to go over a few more things up here on these menus up top that we didn't get to. Then I'm going to just talk to you for a minute about filters, and then we'll be done. Okay, so yesterday we left off again with edit, paste special, paste into. Everything else that you need to know on the edit menu we've already covered. So fills and strokes and transforms are the major ones. Remember, edit, transform, scale, rotate, etc. The rest of it you don't need to worry about. So mainly it's just copy, paste, undo, fill stroke, paste special, and transform. Under the image menu, there's still a few things we should go over. First and foremost, if you are bringing images in from Google or wherever and trying to put them on your box, you might occasionally run into a situation where an image, when you try to do something to it, tells you it can't be modified because it is in indexed color mode. If that happens, go up to image and go to mode right here and switch it from index color to RGB color. Your mode should always be RGB color, and then you shouldn't have any problems. Okay? Now, that's it for mode. Just make sure you're in RGB mode. There's other modes for different things. Like if you were trying to do something for print, you probably want to switch it to CMYK or whatever, like if you were doing book illustrations or something. Indexed color is more for website images. So don't worry about that. Just switch it to RGB and you're fine. Under adjustments, there are several things here that are worth noting. Up first is brightness contrast. That does pretty much what it says. It gives you a couple of sliders here, and if you slide it to the left, the brightness gets darker, and if you slide it to the right, the brightness gets lighter. I think I have a selection active here because that wasn't looking right. Let's try that again. Image adjustments, brightness contrast. Yeah, there we go. See how the whole thing is getting brighter or darker? Contrast basically just makes the range of color like a little more drastic from bright to dark. On this image, it's already pretty high contrast, so it's not going to show up much when I slide it, but on other images you can really tell a difference. Now, in a lot of these buttons, these menus rather, there's a little auto button there. If you click it, it's going to automatically adjust the brightness and contrast to where it thinks it needs to be. You can always try that and be done with it if you think it needs it, or you can try to do it yourself. Up to you. I think what it did looks okay, so I'll just leave it. Another way to do that is the next one down, called levels, and I actually prefer this method because it gives you a little more control. You have this input graph here that's also known as a histogram, and if you slide these different sliders over, like the dark one controls the dark balance, and it'll make the dark pixels even darker. All right, that's obviously too dark, but you get the point. The white obviously does the highlights and makes it brighter. And then the midtones kind of controls the middle range. So if I drag this over here and then try to make it brighter, you just basically want to have these at 0 or close to 0. They should be kind of equally spaced. Again, you can hit auto and it will automatically adjust the levels to where it thinks it'll be the optimal amount, I guess. If you slide them, try not to go past where the histogram peaks. That's when things start to get too washed out. If you notice in the background, some of these white clouds and stuff, if you go too far past here, start to get super glowing. They look like they're just too bright. So that's too much. Now, again, these settings are more for like photo editing, because remember, Photoshop is a photo editing tool first and foremost. I mean, people use it for design, but it's mostly used for professional photographers. So a lot of these tools are set up for that. So you would probably only use this sort of thing if you were trying to adjust the images that you were going to put on your box. You wouldn't want to use it on the box itself. Curves and exposure, don't worry about those. Vibrance has to do with the vibrancy and the saturation of color. The more you drag this over, the richer the colors look, a little more vivid the colors look. And if you drag it to the left, it looks more washed out, like it's been faded by the sun or something. Saturation has to do just with the intensity of a color. So if I drag this all the way to the left, this basically becomes like a grayscale image. It's just no color left. But if I drag this all the way to the right, the color is super, super bright, which, you know, you don't really want to have. So that's helpful, especially if you're using artwork that's, you know, animated or comic themed. You want nice, bright, vivid color. Hue saturation. If you slide the hue, it's going to change the range of color from, you know, blues to reds. It's kind of going to go through the spectrum. It's going to almost do a kind of a, I almost say a complementary color thing, but it's gonna keep the dark colors will stay dark, the light colors will stay light, but they will shift within a range between yellows and blues and reds. All right. Saturation again has to just do with the vividness of the color, and then there's the lightness. You can go in and select individual color ranges to adjust, but you probably won't really need it that much. The only other one is color balance, and this is like if, let's say, you have a picture that's maybe you took it outdoors and it's got a blue tinge to it because you were in the shade or something. You could actually go in and adjust these sliders and like get rid of the blue and make it warmer, cooler. Or if it had a yellow tinge to everything because you took it in bright sunlight, you could drag it towards the blues and color correct some of it. It's kind of handy, but might not have too much use for it on this assignment, but that's where that is. All right, everything else you don't need to worry about. These photo filters and posterize, invert, you know, you don't need to know it. Desaturate literally just makes it black and white. The other image things we've already been over, I think. You know, image size, again, refers to the resolution and dimensions of the file that you're working in. Right now, it's set at 300 dpi, which is about the standard. That's like the bare minimum you'd want if you were doing something for print. Anything lower than that and things start looking really chunky and bad. You can take something that is high resolution and decrease it, and it will still retain its, it'll still look good. But you cannot take something that's low res and simply make it higher res. It'll just be blurry and look bad. So if you're ever scanning something in, or you're looking for photo reference, trying to find higher res images is always best. Don't, you can't blow up a low res picture very much and have it look good at all. All right, so like on this Robin layer here, this is like 72 DPI. So I don't want to make this super huge on my box, because if you zoom in and look at it, you'll see all these little fuzzy artifacts and things that look really bad in here in the shadows, because see how the edges are kind of chunky. So you want to be careful blowing up low res images high, because they don't look that good. Just kind of there for an example. Okay. And canvasage just refers to the actual dimensions of your file. So if you're working on a file and you want to actually make it bigger, you can go to canvas size, and so right now it's set like almost 11 by 17. Let's change the width to 20 and the height to, I don't know, 13, and watch what happens. And then these arrows here just determine, the direction, like where you want that extra space to go. Hit OK. See how it added that extra room on the edges of my canvas? So it didn't make the image bigger in terms of resolution, but it made the canvas size, the dimensions of the image, larger. So that might be useful to you, might not. All right. And, duplicate will just make a copy of your file. You don't need to worry about the rest of this. Thank you. Abby, you have to see college counseling for 10 minutes. Yes, PJ, what's up? Yes. Yeah, it says on here 10 minutes. So it shouldn't take very long. It doesn't say whether you should go now or later, so you can just go now. It's fine. I'm recording all this, so. All right. I don't know what that was. I don't know. I don't think so. All right, layer. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, all of these functions here are repeated down here on this menu. And most of these you kind of know, like make a new layer. Oh, I don't want to do that. So create a new layer. You can create a new layer from background. I don't really know what artboard is. I don't mess with it. Some people might think it's great, but I haven't found a use for it. You can duplicate a layer. You can merge layers together, delete layers. You can go up here and do it, or you can simply well, that's not what I want. You can, select a layer, grab it, click it and grab it, and drag it down to the little trash can there, like that. We don't need to worry about most of these in the middle, like layer masks and vector masks, smart objects. Just try to stay away from that stuff as much as possible. If you do accidentally create a smart object by dragging something in weird, just know that you can rasterize the layer, and then it'll fix it. You can group layers into, into folders and stuff and organize them if you feel the need. You don't have to. Some people like having an organized layer stack. Me, I just have a giant stack of 200 layers that aren't named, and it's really messy, but that's the way I work. And then you can merge layers down either all at once or individually. Type, we've been over type. We don't need to do that again. We talked about the type tool yesterday. Select, remember, Control A is select all, Control D is deselect. And then there's that inverse thing we talked about, remember, where I showed you how to flip the selection from background to foreground, like when we did the Batman thing. And then the only other thing to remember is that, like, let's say you have a selection active. Remember we did this thing where we were pasting Robin in and like smoothing up the edges of the selection like that. And then I was like, okay, now you want to go in and go select refine edge. But remember, on your computers, it's not called refine edge. It's called like select mask or something like that. Select and mask or something like that. So just know that they're the same thing. They do the same thing. And then you can go in and smooth this up. And let me see if I can zoom in a little closer. You can make the selection smoother and make it grow or shrink or whatever, but bring up the contrast. And then you can copy and paste it. You can also save selections if you feel like you need to. Filter is the one we'll spend a little time on. A filter is basically just like a special effect. And there's too many to really list by, like individually list. If you go to filter and then go to filter gallery, you'll notice that there are two different types of filters. I'm selected the wrong thing, sorry. Let's deselect that and go to this layer. And then we'll try filters. These are what are called artistic kind of filters that replicate a certain brush style or art style or technique. Some of them, like cutout, are kind of cool. Once you select the actual filter you want to use, over on the right-hand side, it'll have little sliders that you can change the parameters on stuff. So, like, this might be kind of cool if I just wanted like some kind of simple abstract background to put other elements on top of. It's like kind of like Cubist Spider-Man, kind of a thing. Really pare it down. Neon glow. You can change the color of the glow. Change the brightness of it. I personally like, under Sketch, there's one called halftone pattern that I kind of like. The reason why it's showing up as purple and black is because I currently have purple and black selected as my foreground and background colors. So if I selected different colors, this would look different. And then you can change the size of the dots, make them really big, really small. You can change it from a dot pattern to a circle pattern or a line pattern. So again, neat thing to do stylistically if you had something in mind, a certain aesthetic in mind. But there's so many of these that like really, I can't list them all. It would be better if you just took a little time and just experimented. Again, you don't have to use layers at all. I mean, not layers, but filters at all. But you might come across something cool just through trial and error, and then have it really make or break your design. So just you gotta just play around with it though. There's distortion ones like glass. So that's kind of cool. Makes it look like glass blocks you see in people's bathrooms or something. Tiny lens. I don't know. So that's filters in a nutshell. I could be clicking on these for an hour and still not get through it all, but you get the idea. Glowing edges, that's always a cool one. It looks kind of like a neon sign. That's pretty boss. I gotta admit. Okay. So that's filters. The only thing that I would say about filters, though, is if you do use them sparingly. Don't overdo it. Because, like, this, as cool as it looks, is really busy design-wise, and it would be very hard to put text and other things on top of this. It's, like, so overwhelming. You know, I don't know that I would actually use this on my box. And again, the other thing is don't fool yourself into thinking, like, even though this looks kind of cool, I mean, it's still just you taking someone else's picture and just putting a filter on it. You're not really designing anything. You're just altering it a bit. I really want you guys to try to take individual things and arrange them and make your own designs out of them instead of just relying on these kinds of things solely. And then there's other parts that these are the artistic filters. Then there are also filters that help you just touch up photos like blur. You can add, now that I put that filter on it, I can combine it with like a blur of some kind, like a Gaussian blur or a motion blur. Let's do a motion blur or tilt shift. Let's try tilt shift. Maybe not, because that looks too complicated. I'm not even going to get involved in that. That's just crazy. I don't even know what it's doing right now. All right, let's cancel out of that. The one filter that I use quite a bit how do I get out of this? Let's just cancel out of this. Thank you. That's what I wanted. All right. Go to sharpen and unsharp mask. This is something that I use quite a bit on images that are a little blurry. I take up the amount to about 50 or so %, and then I bring up the radius a decent amount, and that's all I really do. But it takes blurry things and makes them look a little crisper. Can't really tell on this one, but it's handy. All right, so here let's try it again. Let's do filter unsharp mask. I don't know if you can tell on the projector, but it actually made that a little crisper. Okay, so that's filters in a nutshell. 3D, you don't got to worry about any of that. View, we went over this the other day. Remember, this is where you go to turn on and off your grids and your rulers and whatever else. And just also make sure you're in standard screen mode. Have extras checked all the time. If for some reason you lose your menus or some other thing, go to Window and go to Workspace. And if something happens, just do Reset Essentials. Yeah, I don't want this. I don't care. All right. Yeah, okay. Oh my God. Thank you. All right. See, I switched this arbitrarily to Design Space. Didn't really want to do that. So under Window, I'm going to go Return to Standard Photoshop. And now I'm back to what I'm used to. So if anything goes wrong with your workspace, you can fix it under Window and go to Workspace. I think I accidentally hit that Design Space preview, and that's why it had a conniption there. Okay. The only other thing that I'll mention is that on the Layers menu, remember we talked about layer style and being able to do things with layer style. Like, for example, if I have Robin's head selected, and I want to do something different with it, I could select, inverse, delete the whole rest of that thing, so it's just Robin's head. And then I could move it over here. Come on. Oh, maybe I'll move it over this way. Come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. Now, if I double click on the layer, I can bring up the layer style. I can add a stroke outline, change it to like red, make it look bigger, change the size, go to the outside, add a drop shadow to it, you know, whatever. So that layer style is something that you will use a lot of on this. But also you can do things like bring down the opacity of a layer, which will help a lot. Like, for example, let's, oh, there we go. That's what I wanted. I'm going to bring this layer over to my box. Oh, where is it? Where is it? What did I do with my box? There we go. Let me paste that in. Okay, so I could take this bat, drag it underneath the Robin layer so his head is inside the bat. I could then go to Edit, Transform, Scale, shrink this down, move it up in here, hit Enter, and then I could do something like take the opacity of the layer and bring it down somewhat. You know, you can use the opacity of a layer to make the effects look more subdued. All right. So layer opacity and layer style are two things that you should be using a lot with your elements to make it look a little more professional. Okay. That's pretty much it for Photoshop. I may have missed one or two little things, but overall, we're done with that. So if you have any questions or whatever, go back and watch, or you can ask me and I'll try to do what I can. But I think you guys really should go back and at least skim through these to refresh your memory, especially the first couple of days. Now let me just show you some examples of past projects that I think will be helpful. These are real these are real boxes that students made. Go ahead. All right. These are not like store-bought. Some of them you can tell they're not. This is one that actually looks pretty good. It's looks fairly professional. She did a really good job with this. And one of the things that I like about this box so much is that she is actually thinking about elements and principles of design. She is using things like color to unify her box together. She's using similar colors. She's sampling colors from her images. She's not just like putting one image on the side of a box and saying I'm done. She's actually going in and taking multiple things and arranging them. She's using filters, like she's using this halftone pattern kind of thing to create a little bit of texture, which I like. So she's using shapes. She's using like repeated circular shapes and oval shapes to help create a sense of unity as well as color. She's got activities on every side of her box, which is good. I mean, when I look at this, I can totally see a child, especially like a young girl, being really attracted to this box. Like really, like it'll draw her eye and get her interested in the characters. She's communicating what the theme is very well. I'm getting a real sense of what this world is about based on the activities and stuff that she's putting up there. Okay. So this is A work to me. This is A+ work. This is good stuff. This one looks pretty good. There are a couple of, yeah, it's cool, and I like the theme. The only thing that I would say is that there are, there are some inconsistencies here. Like number one, there really isn't any activity on this side of the box. I mean, the problem with this is that it looks good, but it looks good because she didn't design it. She just took the image from the show poster and stuck it on the side of the box. Right? Yeah, so like I mean the handles are I kind of like what you do with the curve shape on the handle. But like there's really nothing here other than the show poster, which I will admit is a great design. I love this positive negative space kind of a interaction going on here. It's a great poster. But again, she didn't design it. So you shouldn't make that the focal point of that side of the box if you didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like she should have either picked something else or brought other things into it. So this is what I meant when I was saying yesterday that I don't want you to just use the paste into to just stick something in there and then you trick yourself into thinking, oh, that looks great. Like, yeah, it looks great because you took a really great design and just stole it. I mean, you got to try to make it your own, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is awful. I mean, the other sides of the box are good, but just that one side I felt needed more. This box as a whole is probably a B+ kind of a thing. Because these other parts are nice. I do like the way she like put the flying monkey coming off from the side, and she's got some good little like spot the difference activities where like in one of them she has glasses, the other one she clone stamped the glasses out. There's some neat stuff going on. I like the little map of the Emerald City in the background. But again, I feel like this isn't quite as strong as it could be. Avatar, Last Airbender, cool theme. I like this for the most part, but like right here, this side of the box, it's just nothing but this really boring font and text. If I was a kid, I would ignore this so fast that it wouldn't even be funny. All right, there's nothing here. I would ignore this. This to me just would put me to sleep. There's no images here. There's nothing to grab my attention. It's just a flat color. I don't care. As someone who's supposed to be in the target audience, I can tell you right now, this does not work for me. Even on these sides here, I love the red and green complementary color interaction. Opposite sides, opposite colors. I dig it. I do feel like this side could use more visual elements on the sides or something. I feel like it's a little sparse. And I really hate, this really just annoys me, the little symbols up on the handle. That I can't stand that. Because it doesn't fit well in that space. Like the circle looks like it's kind of trying to burst out of that little. It's like sticking a round peg in a square hole. I just don't like it. I feel like a round element like this would be better off playing off like the round element of this down here on the corner of the box or something. So that's just a personal thing. It just annoys me. But, Ethan was a great student. He did a lot of great work. That's just that one thing just bugs me. And I just feel like that these are kind of sparse images, like just flat color, not a whole lot of layering going on. I like the little bit of overlapping he's doing here with this round shape overlapping this round shape of the back of this bison thing. I can't remember what they were called. I just feel like more could have been done. This box bothers me on a few levels. Number one, she's combining these styles that do not go together at all. She's got this really nice kind of style from the show. She should have tried to make everything match that, but now she's got this flat kind of gradient, these clouds that look like a 5-year-old drew them, this kind of almost cut paper collage looking ocean stuff, like all these different clip art kinds of images together that none of them match. It's just I don't like it. This is like a B, low B, if I'm feeling charitable. All right, you're not going to fail. No, you're not. Okay, so there are parts of this that are okay. Also, let me tell you right now, hey, just steal an activity off of the internet and slap it on there. That really rubs me the wrong way. Like, try to be more inventive than just slapping that on there or putting a black and white picture and saying, color this. Right? The other thing is, look here at this word find. You see how the letters don't line up into even straight columns? That's a problem. All right? Don't do that. Make sure that when you do your word find, if you do that, make sure that you find one that renders this out as, evenly spaced rows and columns of letters. No, there are other things you can do, but just saying, you have to have activities on all 4 sides of your box. I mean, I've been saying that over and over again. Here's some more up. This is a pretty good one. She took like a jungle scene and then put these individual characters in front of it to kind of create her own sort of design. I like the interplay of text and image on this. I like the layout of this a lot. I feel like she found a really good central location for her logo. The McDonald's one looks good. Yeah, so this is an A for sure. It looks like there's some kind of a find the hidden things or something like that on that. I can't really read the text, but it's something like that. All right. This is an example of a bad one, right? There are no activities on these sides. All there is one maze, and these are just. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. When I say don't just paste something on there, like this is not anything that she designed herself. She just grabbed a picture of Rugrats with a bunch of characters in it, stuck it on her box, and she thought, "Oh, that looks pretty good." Yeah, but you didn't design it. You just grabbed a picture and stuck it on. Any monkey could do that. It's not. I don't know that it's an F, but it's certainly not an A or a B. It's probably a C. It's a C if I'm feeling nice. All right. This one's kind of cute. Again, there's not enough activities on it. I think she may have done some of these characters herself, but there's not enough activities on it. There's not enough text on it. There just needs to be more content. I mean, I like the aesthetics of it, but more content's needed. Yeah, this is okay, but again, not enough content. Like, what is this? You know, it's just a bunch of random stuff. All right. So, before you go, remember, folks, number one, take home your still life paintings and work on them. They're due Wednesday. Number two, come in on Monday with sketches and thumbnails for your box, because starting then, we're going to be working on the boxes. So Monday, you have to have your theme ready to go and some sketches to work off of. Have a great weekend. Okay. You too. Have a good one.